Okay. I don't know what we're talking about. I will see you in about an hour, everybody. See you later. Ooh. Okay. The joy of being with another person is when there is a connection. When on the physical realm, you feel a link between the two of you. And with a little confidence and time, one heart, and then the second, opens towards the other. And then there is a joy of a connection which is not very often felt. And it gets stronger with time. Of course, some choose to close one heart. And then the beginning of problems start to occur. There are three elements within a relationship. Partner one and partner two. But beyond that, there is the third aspect. And that is the spiritual connection between both partners. It is rather like a triangle or a pyramid. And the secret is to bring what is hidden, the third aspect, into the foreground and let that run the relationship. What is hidden, of course, is the true connection, the unity, the bond of love, the trust, the happiness. If one or both partners keep the third aspect hidden from the other, then the relationship feels disjointed. One is giving, one is taking. But of course, the relationships I talk about are not just romantic relationships, but would work within your commercial or even your spiritual life. It is bringing what is hidden into the light. So that then becomes the driving factor of that relationship. If you like, the truth. Let the truth run the needs and requirements. But more on that later. So within your life, there are many different aspects to you. You'll be on the path of commercial life, path maybe of health and well-being, maybe a spiritual life, relationships with family and friends, and the avoidance of those which do not serve you. And each of these paths will be walked at the same time. Some will be further ahead than others. You may be advanced on one level, but just beginning on another. The importance is you are walking the path. But there is an underlying path, journey, destination, goal, The underlying path, of course, is the realization of yourself. The coming home. The connection to God, to being, to truth. Whichever path you are on your physical realm, is not the true path. The secret, of course, is to bring the two paths into alignment. The realization of yourself, the truth, into what you perceive the physical world needs or is lacking. And this too is like the first example. Partner one and partner two are both the same. It is bringing light into the realization of what you are doing in your physical world. The relationship with yourself. But for many, of course, this is rather difficult. It is easier to love another than the self. The self needs to be avoided. It can be rather hard or difficult or challenged or even painful. To come back into your truth. The physical world is meant to be supported of this process, supporting of this process. And all events of life are no more than doorways, not obstacles, but doorways into your real being, underneath the concepts of who you think you are. There are those which say that they are spiritual, and they walk the path of whatever they perceive spiritual to be. But as soon as they take that hat off, the egoic self shines forward. Now, they may be very connected to spirit in their working hours, but very disconnected in their private life. So, of course, the challenge is to bring the light into the dark. The light does not need to fight the dark. There is no challenge from the darkness towards the light. So why is your spiritual path so difficult if the light is not challenged by the dark? Now, there is a topic all to itself, isn't there? If the light is not threatened by the dark, why is the dark so appealing to so many? Mm. Perhaps we'll keep that hanging for another day. Now, as we did last week, and in previous weeks, the talk will become circle. The depth, the simplicity, and the reconnection. So in a moment, I will request the healing names. Please join me in the healing of all those that are mentioned. Let the love flow through your heart so that you may feel the connection of spirit in your life for the next few minutes. The love of connection of the two sides. So Brandon, may I have the names, please?
Jeannie, Jesse, Angelina, George, Andreas, Stephanos, Irene, Stella, Dimitri, Maxine and Mike Eskins, Helen, Ellen and Adam, Teresa, Denise and Steve, Warren, Carl B., Chris and Howard, Bob and Kath, Michelle E., Tracy, Eric, Stephen, Matthew, Jill, Katie, Mitch, Marianne and Jody, Stephanie Baker, Daniel, Chantal, Lee, and Vince. Thank you.
Have you ever noticed that the harder you try, the more difficult life tends to become? What you chase, you seem to constantly chase. What you push seems to resist, doesn't it? Very hard to grasp some of these things that you want. And you probably tried visualizing, and you probably tried sitting there doing wishing for things to happen and hoping. And wishing just gives you more wishing, doesn't it? and visualizing, thinking of the things and picturing them the way that you want them to be can help and get you little bits and pieces that you want, and hopefully something more miraculous. You see, all the creation comes from a deeper level than just your mind. The mind creates it, but you've got to wish for it. Wrong choice of words there, wish for it, but you've got to then put it into place and then place it into the mind, and the mind will then create it into the life. But when the ego gets involved, of course, then there is desire for what you want and not necessarily for what the world wants or what somebody else wants. The ego's only interested in itself, isn't it? It's only interested in what I need. And what you can create there, even though it's possible to create from the point of ego, but it never feels right, never feels truthful, never feels really honest. And it creates this perception that you think that you've got to be. Some people try to be big and strong and tough. Some people try to be intelligent. Some people try to be attractive. And they try to make themselves attractive by doing the very things what they think is beautiful. But if you're astute enough, you look right through it, don't you? You see them and you see, well, that's just the falseness. That's not the reality. And these false people actually become less attractive. Unless, of course, it appeals to your ego the way that they are. The most false people are really the most pained people, aren't they? I've got to deal with life, and they deal with it in the way that they think is appropriate for them. And they create problems if need be, or create drama and sensations if that's what they need as well. And the more that they do, actually, the less they become. If you compare that type of person to almost its opposite, and that is somebody who's just who they are, doing what they do and what they like. From their point of reality, not from their point of pain, but from their point of truth. There's a certain appeal, isn't there? These are the people which are, let's say, have an attractive heart. They're not there for manipulation. They're there for an expression of what they think is who their being is. Of course, some of them can be on a spiritual path or not. But when I say not, they don't know that they are. So who are you? What are you thinking you have to be like? What are you trying to do that you think is what's going to give you the best result? You see, it's been said before that the best way is to find your truth and then live from there. Find the beauty of your being on the inside. And not only is it attractive to you, but it's attractive to others. Ironically, not because you need to be attractive to others, but because there's no other way to be. But of course, how do you get there? How do you get to that little point of magic? And then how do you live there and stay there? You can get there for a brief time, but of course, staying there's a difficulty, isn't it? Of course, part of the truth is to realise you never left it. You never left your truth, your light, your spirit, heaven. You just think you have. And you try to improve heaven then, don't you? Don't make no sense, really. So if you live today full of truth and honesty, in whatever that means, and you feel more connected to yourself, and you bring the light that's hidden behind you into your world. Now, this isn't the truth that you walk around telling everybody point blank how the world works or what they like. You just live it. Don't have to say it. People will know. They may not know how they know, but they know. And then all of a sudden, life seems to work a bit smoother. It works smoother because you're not requiring any change. You feel like life's all working with you. Difficulties come, but they just passed by. You see, that's what all these talks are about. If I ain't mistaken, there's 87 of them. Everyone is pointing to a direction. Live your light. Bring light into the world. Be your truth. And you know when it's working well because you just feel like you're on your mission. You know where you're going, you know what you're doing. And if you don't, you're very happy with that as well. You see, we need to remind you, and you need to remind you about that little bit of light, that little bit of truth, that little bit of love is your doorway into a lot of light and a lot of truth and a lot of love. And when you get the problem person, they too are your doorway. When you get the body injuries, they too are the doorway. A negative person sees them as problems. A positive person sees all these of what have I got to do to change. And a realistic person just sees them as the truth of who they are. A signpost, a gift from God, if you want. In the next few days and weeks, you too will be challenged, won't you? It's kind of like the way it is. Challenged by, let's say, health or mentally, emotionally. Can you see the truth in those incidences? Like a little pinprick of light on the end of your thumb when you hit it with a nail or even a hammer. A light is there as well. So when life challenges you, in whichever way it's going to challenge, how focused are you? Are you really spiritual? Or do you come out of being spiritual because you're jumping around because the hammer's hit your thumb? See the light in the world. It's everywhere all the time, and live from that. Spiritual path ain't asking you to do anything that's false. It's just asking you to come back to what is real. The mind gets caught up with all that judgmenting, criticizing, both internally and externally. You look at your partner and you say, I ain't good enough. I've forgotten this or forgotten that. Then up comes a newborn baby, or even somebody that's a little, well, at the end of their life, shall we say. Now these people, the baby and the elderly, seem to have a different type of attraction because they ain't got no false self anymore. They don't hold anything back. They're more connected to the light, aren't they? They're connected to society. So who's attractive in your life? Are you attracted to yourself? Or are you repulsed by yourself? Or the way you're acting? If so, it's a doorway. It's not the end of the world. No matter how difficult your body is, or your mind is out of control, you're still a being full of light. So spend a few minutes a day just connecting to that light, and you build it, and you find then it becomes more and more real. And then it just shines, doesn't it? The connectedness of self. All right, ta-ra. Oh, wunderschön, out. Forgot, didn't you? You either see the darkness or the light. You live from the truth or the falsehood. Is your desire to work with people or help people from your ego or from your spirit? Is your desire to be truly spiritual, based in spirit? Are you willing to give it all away for love? If you were on a spiritual path, and it appears you are helping many, would you stop it? If one that you love needs your 100% attention, what would you do? Helping thousands, or do you help one? What is the spiritual path there? Now, I guess within your mind, you are coming to your own conclusion. You must make your mind up. Which would you pick now? The one or the many? Go into your being and ask the question. What would I do, or what should I do? Do I follow truth or do I follow love? How will I know that it is the right answer? Perhaps you can discover what you would do, and we can talk about that in a future week as well, maybe 2 weeks' time. So there are 3 aspects to your relationship: yourself, the other, and what is hidden, the light. Bring the light forward into the connection to your true self or the connection to another. Bring the light into your working day, your spiritual path, your relationships. And then you will be truly a being of light. Honor that, and not the self or the other. As honoring the light in that connection brings the 2 people into one. As long as you see 2, there is a disconnection. God bless you all.
Well, welcome back from the abyss.
Mm. It is the abyss as well. Yeah. Anyway. Everything feels so just feels heavy now, you know. But just feel like it. Gotta come back to the body. Never mind. Yeah.
Is that something new?
No, but what I recognise now, there's actually like a desire to go back. You know, it's like a, I don't know, maybe you've left the pot of gold behind you. You got to go back. Do you want to go back? Oh, that's go back. You come back to being a poor. That's probably a good analogy, actually, isn't it? You know, you leave the richness and you come back to being a pauper. maybe that's a good analogy. I don't mean in terms of money, in terms of, I don't know, beauty, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Anybody else get there and get to that point of, you do, you know, I mean, not there's anything wrong with here, but there's just something else that's a bit different. Mm. Anyway, best.